What's up, everybody? We have 10 minutes here with Mr. Ryan Muckenhirn, and he is joining us to talk about a cartridge that has been so heavily requested that if you go back and you look at our comments sections on Instagram, maybe even on YouTube, I actually can't remember, it's there in almost every single one. So,
Now, Jim, it's been heavily requested. How many people have requested it?
One.
Okay.
Greg. This one's for you. At least your name's Greg on Instagram. So hopefully it is in real life, or at least hopefully you respond to that.
My hat's off to that guy getting the first at Greg.
At
Just
Greg.
at Greg.
Persistence.
Yeah.
So the 7.62x25. We're finally here talking about it. But maybe some other people will be interested in it once they hear about it a little bit. So Ryan, tell us what it is and what makes it so interesting to people like Greg.
To people like Greg and to people like myself, because I think it's an endearing little cartridge. Not the first bottleneck pistol case. Maybe stolen technology off the first bottleneck pistol case. Probably an improvement. Faster, higher pressure, cooler guns for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, big time. So take a 30 Luger and then turn it into a 7.62x25 Tokarev, and then you have the 7.62x25 Tokarev. Chamber it in a pistol, the TT or the original Tokarev pistol, which is hyper accurate, extremely simplistic in design, actually pretty revolutionary, kind of a departure from either the Mauser designs or the John Moses Browning designs at the time, and then make a companion submachine gun that has a ridiculous cyclic rate.
Yes.
And you have a really, really actually modern, probably ahead of its time by 80 years, cartridge and firearm combination.
Do they still use it today?
That's a good question. No, I don't think so. No, that's not true either. No, they don't.
I mean, what you just described, I'm like, why wouldn't you still use that?
No,
that sounds
What's
fantastic.
it comparable to that we're using modern day today?
Something that somebody might be familiar with, like 357 SIG.
Okay, that's because bottlenecked.
Yeah,
Okay.
Pistol cartridge.
they're in a different class, but in a kind of similar class. So bottleneck pistol cartridge, where we're taking, a larger diameter, necking it down. So in the case of backing up the 30 Luger, and I'm not saying that the 7.62x25 came from the 30 Luger, but it came from somewhere, and the 30 Luger was on scene a little bit before that.
We also don't really know the date, apparently, of this
I don't.
cartridge's inception.
1920-ishes.
Right.
Yep. Maybe not a lot of great documentation back then, but so closest modern comparison, like a 357 SIG.
What's the point of bottlenecking a pistol cartridge? Why? I mean, most pistol cartridges that you see out there are not bottlenecked. They're just they look like a straight wall, like a mini straight wall cartridge. Why are most pistol cartridges like that? And then why would you not bottleneck it? Why would you I mean, what's up there? Just to be different?
A couple theories. Higher velocity, lower recoil. So if you were to take a 357 SIG and a 40 Smith & Wesson and a 9mm, and I realize that that's not the conversation that we're having here, but a 40 Smith & Wesson has a pretty notable recoil signature compared to like a 9. Mm-hmm. And some may say that the 9's performance is anemic when compared to the 40. What's the happy middle ground? Well, you want a spicy 9, but you can't really get there safely with the actual case constraints. So they took the 40 effectively and necked it down to 9, 357 SIG. So you get higher velocity than the standard 9mm loading without getting exponentially more recoil. So it's higher controllability than the 40.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Yep. And probably actually kind of outperforming it because of that velocity curve. Another thing with the Toke, at the time, it was pretty decent at defeating armor. And I'm not talking like vehicles. I actually probably would be pretty good through the skin of a vehicle, but like the helmet or flak jackets, things like that.
Is that just because the diameter of the bullet
Smaller
is...
diameter, higher velocity.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, isn't the Toke the one where the Russians were getting handled pretty heavily by the Finns
Yes.
with their Suomi?
Yeah.
And then the Russians were like, we're getting our you-know-whats handed to us. And so we need to go drink some more vodka, come up with a new invention to go and fight back.
Yep.
And they came up with this bad boy out of the PPSh, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. And there's a couple iterations of the PPSh. I think the one that most folks are familiar with would be the 41. So
it's such a cool gun.
yeah, goofy looking, crazy barrel shroud on it. We worked as a heat sink and a heat shield, so you didn't burn your hands off when you're in the middle of the winter and you can't feel them, and you grab onto the thing. Cyclic rate was bonkers, like 800 plus rounds per minute. And they just shoot like a sewing machine. I've had the opportunity to shoot a real PPSh, and it is like a continuous stream of brass and bullets coming out of the thing. They make a really distinct sound. Actually pretty remarkably accurate too for low tech. These folks building these were not on the forefront of some crazy industrial revolution. Dark factories, crude machines, crude tools, made a phenomenally reliable, quite accurate weapon. And that submachine gun too, the PPSh, the effective range of it was akin to that of like a lot of carbines at the time, usably. And then paired with the fully auto fire, kind of beat the carbine out on the battlefield. So imagine if you were running around with, say, a German Mauser and a Mosin Nagant, and you were fighting those. They're both turn bolts. They're both big, unwieldy guns. And you can probably realistically shoot them to 200 or 300 yards in that scenario. Well, the PPSh could probably do the same thing and give you suppressing fire with its ridiculous cyclic rate and its huge ammunition capacity. I think the drums were 50 rounds or 60 rounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Big.
Well, it sounds like that drum would be gone pretty quick, too.
Yeah, they zipped through them pretty handily.
Well, and Jim, we know the rule of more rounds.
The more rounds you got,
the less aim it take.
That's right. Amen.
Yes.
But anyway.
R.I.P.
But one of the fascinating things, this is one of those rounds, sometimes a gun makes you, it can either force you into a certain cartridge or something like that because you're like, I want that gun. And you're like, I'll take whatever cartridge is chambered in. Sometimes a cartridge makes you want a gun. This is one of the, I feel like this is one of the former of the ones I just said. This gun is the one that makes me interested in this cartridge, but it's actually pretty sweet sounding. It is. At first, I always was never really interested in the toke because I was kind of like, it just sounds like some weird Russian thing, but it's pretty sweet sounding.
Very neat. Super neat.
There's a lot going on here.
The pistol, too. The pistol's actually really quite clever.
It's not that sexy of a pistol. I've seen tons of them back in the day when they were for sale on like all kind. You could get them for nothing.
Yeah. And
they're just sort of like a knockoff Russian-looking 1911 with a star on the grip. Right? Am I thinking of the right ones?
Yeah. So
there they are.
The cool part about them, like take one apart and examine the simplicity of them, and it's remarkable. Shooting them, they're highly accurate. They extend the effective range of the handgun, and that's a pretty subjective statement, though, because at the end of the day, it's a handgun, short sight radius, how good is a shooter? But they are a really flat shooting little cartridge, and the pairing is really neat. I actually really like the Toke pistol. I should have bought one when they were more affordable. They are not that affordable anymore, and neither are Mosin Nagants, and neither are the semi-auto PPSHs, which I don't even think you can get anymore. They used to be not a shotgun news, Century Arms thing. You could get the semi-auto setups. But super cool cartridge. Side note, I used to shoot 3-gun with a gentleman that made a gas-operated AR with a micro gas system. So he took a carbine length, and I can't remember if he started pigtailing the gas tube around this to optimize that gas tube length. He made the gas system like half the length of the carbine gas system and started with a full-length tube, pigtailed it, and slowly began cutting it off and straightening it out until he found the optimal gas tube length to work. He made a gas-powered AR out of some bastardized parts from like a Colt 9mm SMG on the AR pattern and the Tokarev. And he had
fired this 7.62 by 25 out.
And it worked famously. He also
where did he get the barrel?
He I think had a 30 caliber blank with a relatively slow twist, like a 1 in 12 or a 1 in 14 made from maybe Green Mountain. And then he just affixed a AR barrel extension onto it.
And he just got weird with mags?
No, they worked perfect with the Colt SMG mag.
Oh.
Yes.
That's
wow.
Cool.
It was neat.
What an experiment.
Neat. And he made it in his garage. And so this was before before PC.
What are you doing in your garage, Mark? I'm not doing anything
Not
cool.
that.
Fixing bikes. this was before PCC existed.
Oh,
Yeah, and so he would come to our local matches, and he was an oddity in himself. He was a grandmaster shooter in production class with a Glock 26. So and he used the tiny little Glock 26 magazines for it. So I mean, he was a phenom, and a brilliant machinist. But he made this Tokarev carbine on an AR in his garage, and he shot PCC with it before there was PCC, and he got scored nothing because it wasn't a scoreable division, but he did it anyways because at the time you could get like 1,000 round container of Tokarev for like $99.
That's what I was going to ask. Where was he getting the ammo?
Garbage cheap milsurp stuff.
Wow.
probably not the case anymore.
No. Turning up Tok ammo, and there's kind of any ammo now, but especially Eastern Bloc ammunition, import restrictions that had occurred in the past decade or so. I mean, he had spam can after spam can of Tok ammo through that thing, and it just ran like a sewing machine.
Look, I don't care if it's always we're on this brink of who knows if the Russians are our friends or our enemies. We like their guns.
Yeah.
They're cool guns.
They are doing some cool stuff. This thing is very innovative.
It is.
I mean, it does seem very much ahead of its time.
It was.
Yeah. It's always neat to me to think about the fact that, like, a lot of times we talk about modern machining processes, modern rifle making processes, ammunition, powders, projectiles.
I'm looking something up while we talk about this.
You're discussing a very accurate pistol, a very accurate and effective submachine gun, and made in a dark factory with simple tools and, by people who probably got trained for 5 minutes before they started working.
If at all.
And, yeah, if at all. And somehow it's very accurate, and you're just kind of like, so we've been making accurate guns since who knows when. And I guess people get all excited when they have something that's accurate nowadays. Have we really gotten better?
I don't think so. So I just looked up S&B. Now this is it's actually pretty high-end ammo. 50 rounds of Tok ammo, $72. So that's not happening very much anymore. And I'm trying to find out if there is any Russian arm currently still chambered in 7.62 Tok. And I don't think there is. I think 9mm has pretty much displaced it. But nonetheless, about 100 years ago, that thing was a force to be reckoned with. I mean, especially like once we got into the latter parts of conflict in that area. Imagine facing off with an enemy front in a city or an urban environment armed with PPSHs.
No.
It's as close as you can get to a minigun.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah,
just
buzzsaws.
Absolutely.
I got a question.
Yeah.
It says here on the interweb that the parent case is the 7.63 by 25. I got to be honest, that sounds like the Tok is like 7-minute abs. Like, what's going on there? What's the
No.
Are you familiar with that one, Ryan?
Yeah.
Is that more of like a rifle, like more of like a
pistol cartridge?
That's the Mauser,
for the
Tokarev.
That was for the C96 Mauser.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
They changed one number. 7-minute abs. What if somebody comes out with the 7.61 by 25?
Yeah.
No, you can't.
man.
You can't do anything with a 7.61. 7.62.
This is like Tabata.
Come on, Ryan. Something about Mary.
I did a Tabata workout one time.
Yes, you did. You did in just 8 minutes.
Like I didn't pull something.
All right. Well, all right. I feel like we've adequately covered this, at least for our usual 10-minute talk. Certainly there's more we could probably go into. There's an entire history behind this whole thing. But there you have it. In a 10-ish minute talk, Greg, hopefully that scratched that itch that you've had for some time now.
If it doesn't, or if it does, he'll let us know. Because he always comments.
That's right.
I always appreciate your comments, Greg.
He's always there. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys on the next one. Ryan, was there any last closing thoughts based on your Mark's printed out Wikipedia?
Yeah, I had never heard of this thing before, so I literally came armed with ammunition.
Ryan has one closing thought.
No, so I wanted to know, like, where did that thing spin off of? And here it says, right, this is from the Wikipedia, based off of the Mauser C96 cartridge. So it was kind of a, quote, adaptation, if you will, of that cartridge.
Well, and if Wikipedia says it, it is.
And there it is.
That's the truth. Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. Very exciting. If anybody has a Tokarev chambered something that isn't a TT pistol or PPSh derivative, I kind of want to see it.
Yes.
It'd be neat to know.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Or if you have a PPSh, we want to shoot it.
Yeah, if you have a PP, yeah.
Okay.
That'd be cool.
With that being said, we'll see you on the next one.
Bye everybody.
Bye, everyone.